Hello and welcome. In today's video, I am going to share one of the biggest keys, and I mean one of the most significant keys to create a life that has meaning, that has purpose, feels rewarding and rich and abundant and wealthy, joyful, where you can feel true peace in your heart. There is never one thing. There is never one key. I think you probably know this by now. There's never one thing to always unlock that will create all these things. However, there are a number that when you use them together, they can create powerful, and I mean truly powerful changes in your life. They can truly transform your life. And I'm going to share one here today. It is one that is very, very near and dear to my heart. I love talking about this one because I started using this before I understood what I was doing, and it really changed my life very quickly in a matter of a very short period of time. And I'm so grateful for this. And I'm talking about alignment. And unfortunately, alignment is one of the most misunderstood concepts. When I go on social media and on the internet and I listen to people talk about it, I find that it's not understood at a deep enough level, because when you understand how powerful it is, you will realize you will want to, if you truly want to change your life and you want to have that joy and that abundance and just feel like really successful and content, blissful, all those things. One of the keys is absolutely to come into alignment with your soul. And that's what I mean by alignment. I don't mean it really, we need to distinguish that I mean soul alignment. And why is that so important? Because you are in alignment with something all the time. We all are. And most of the world is not living their life in accordance with their soul. We weren't taught this. I know I wasn't. I didn't start doing this until 2008. I'll explain a little bit more of my story and how I discovered alignment many years ago. I'll share it a bit later in this video. But we are brought up in this world to align with our families, with the social conditioning, the programming, the ancestral wounds, the ancestral traumas, our own wounds. We are taught to align with the logical mind. We are told there's all these like rules of success that you must follow. You must, all these steps, the 50 steps of success in life, right? We were all taught, most of us anyways, we're taught to align with that. Now, if you're still listening to this video, it's because you've on some level recognized this isn't working, okay? And here's the thing, think about this. I want you to really think about this for a moment. Here you are as a soul, okay? You are a soul, you're having a human experience, but here you are over here. What you're actually taught to do in this world is to align with a whole bunch of stuff over here, okay? The conditioning, the program, all the things I mentioned. Now, of course, your ego and your mind are part of you, so those are still part of you. Most of it's outside of you. So when you think about it, how can any of us, how can you actually expect to ever be truly happy, truly abundant, truly like at peace within your heart? And I'm talking like when you put your head on the pillow at night, you just feel content. Like that's how I feel when I go to bed each night, when I wake up in the morning. I feel true peace and contentment in my heart. Yes, things come up in life. That's part of the human experience. But I feel very much at peace with myself and where I'm at in life. And that was not always the case, believe me. And I will talk about that a little bit later, but it was absolutely not always the case. So when I talk about soul alignment, if you think about it, so here you are, your soul having a human experience. Imagine if you made all your decisions, all the action steps that you took, how you showed up in the world, how you did everything was in alignment with you, like just you, like the cohesion there. You see, most people feel the inner turmoil within, the inner conflict, right? Often I hear people say, I want to know my purpose. I want to know all these things. It's because there's an inner conflict. What that inner conflict is, somebody, and this could be you, who is not living in alignment with their soul. It's actually as simple as that. Now, it's not necessarily the simplest road to get there, to come into alignment with your soul. But that is the only way to true peace and contentment, when you actually live in alignment with your soul. It's actually how we were meant to live. We were never meant to follow the path of everyone else over here. You came in here with your unique blueprint, okay? Your unique soul blueprint. You have your gifts, you have your strengths, you have the things that you came here to work through in your life. You have things that your soul wanted to experience, okay? It came here for. Like you had things that you wanted to do in your life when you came down to this planet at this time in this incarnation. But what we're taught is like, ignore all that. Just do what you're supposed to do over here. Well, it's like, no wonder so many people feel disconnected. So many people feel they're in survival mode. So many people feel like they're not getting there, right? They've done all the right things. They're just not getting there. You were never meant to live in alignment with your mind and your ego and your past and the conditioning. That's not how you were meant to come to this earth. And you can logic your way to this as I'm saying this, but I also want you to really feel into this. Like when I say that, you were meant to live here according to your soul. You were meant to live out your soul's blueprint. Like when I say that, I feel peaceful. Like it lands as truth. You can feel truth. Just want you to sit with that and ask yourself, does this feel right to me? Not does this sound right to me? You can ask yourself that as well, but I want you to do both, because the conditioning is so much around align with all those rules of success and the shoulds and you gottas and all this thing, right? Because what happens when you start aligning with your soul is you listen to yourself. You listen to what your soul actually wants to experience. And when you start living in that truth of who you really are and what you really want, life gets easier. If you think about how much time you spend in conflict in your mind, most people, and I'm going to put myself in this too. Like because I used to live like this. I used to live like this, so much in conflict. Like the life I was living and then what I felt on my inside were so different. Is always, and I didn't identify it like that always. All I knew was when I went to bed, and this is often when I would, things come up and I know how I'm doing in life, my mind would be spinning. I'd be going through emails. I'd be going through conversations in my head. I'd be doing all this stuff. I don't do that now at all. So this inner conflict can show up different ways. But we were never meant to live in accordance with somebody else's rules. Your soul came here to experience life in your own unique way. And I want you to really think about this for a moment. So if you started to live in accordance with your soul, like imagine if you started using your gifts. You may not even know what they are right now. Well, my experience has been two things around gifts. For most people, they were criticized for their gifts for a lot of their early part of their life. They were picked on, they were bugged, they were judged for them. They weren't seen as gifts, right? The other thing is a lot of time with your gifts is they're so natural to you that you don't see them as gifts. You just see them as just who I am. But imagine if you actually saw them as gifts, saw them as unique contributions to this world and started actually using them. Like when we're talking about abundance, when we're talking about wealth, success, you can achieve a certain level of success not using your gifts, but I'm going to tell you, it's a heck of a lot harder than if you just start using them. It's way easier when you just start using your gifts. That's how you are meant to live. And this is when I talk about the power of alignment. I see so many people thinking alignment's a luxury. Like it's only for certain people when they've made it. I've heard that many, many times. Like alignment's not for me. Easy for you to say. But I'm here to tell you, alignment's actually the road to success. It's not something you get at the end because you'll never get there. That's the thing. It's actually the pathway. And I'm actually going to tell you right now, I said I was going to share a little bit about my story, how I discovered alignment. So up until Well, it was about 2004, 2005. I was really living on autopilot. I was doing all the things. I did everything I was supposed to. I went to university, got married, I had kids, I had the house, the custom built house. I had everything. On paper, I had nailed it. Like I had nailed life in the most beautiful, like I was just like, I've nailed it. Except I realized I was not happy. And this started to unravel over a number of years. I won't go into the whole story of it, but and 2008 was the first year that I made, and the first time that I really, really made a decision that was in alignment with my soul. And I left my marriage. Like I believed I was supposed to get married and have kids and have the white picket fence. I was supposed to do this. And like I said, I did everything, right? Until I realized, wow, like, I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all in this. And so I just listened to it. I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had two very small kids. But it was like my soul was just like, you have to do this. Like it was just screaming at me. And I was scared and I did all the things, right? And from that moment forward, my life has just kept moving in that way because when I started making those changes, my life kept getting better. And it's not to say there weren't hard moments, but it felt more like my life. It felt like more like me. It kept coming home back to me. I didn't know I was choosing alignment. I didn't know I was choosing soul alignment. I didn't know any of this. None of this language was around even back then. All I knew was I reached a point in my life where I did everything I was supposed to do. And I was miserable. And unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, sometimes we have to hit rock bottom. I think the beauty of that time in my life was I really did have everything on paper. Like I really did. I thought I was an ace student at life. Like I thought I was freaking nailing life. And I was nailing the conditioning. I was nailing the alignment over here. But here I was, my soul over here was going, girl, you're miserable. And you've got to walk away from this marriage. And I did, one foot in front of the other. And it's continued and continued and continued. Of course, now I know what I was doing. And as I kept going along in life, things started to become more clear. But that's the road. And it's one road, it's one step at a time. And depending how much you've conditioned yourself over here to the conditioning, the program, the past traumas, the everything, obviously the road might take a little bit longer, right? Mine took a little bit longer too, because I didn't have anybody teaching me this. This was me just going, I guess I'm going to do this now. I guess I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like really, all I was doing, going out in nature, listening to myself, going, okay, this is what you need to do next, girl. And listening to my intuition. And that's actually what I wanted to end this video off with, because it's really important to know. The last video I did was a channeled message about listening to your intuition. And your intuition, I like to call it, your intuition is like the voice of your soul, right? And it's really what's going to start to lead you onto that path of soul alignment. So I would encourage you now, if this is sounding like, okay, this is something I want to do. I want to become more in alignment with my soul. I want to have the experience of living more in alignment with my soul. Start to listen to your intuition. And I'm also here to tell you is that when it comes to your intuition, it doesn't usually make sense. Most of the time it doesn't. In fact, very rarely does it ever make sense. Sometimes you will never understand why you made that decision or why your intuition told you to do that. And sometimes the answers come 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later. Like I've had decisions where I've made in the past off my intuition, and it took a decade for me to understand why that happened, why it came up, why my intuition was guiding me away or guiding me this way or telling me to do this. And I think so much of this world, again, is that conditioning to align with your mind. Your intuition isn't going to make sense. Your soul isn't going to make sense right away. But it's kind of like it's kind of like this. As I said, your life is over here and you've aligned it with something else, your ego, the programming, whatever. And your soul is over here. Okay, this is you. This is the human experience, your human experience, right? And your soul. They're far apart probably right now, right? What happens is this happens. If you can just see this. And the closer and closer your alignment comes to your soul, because it's a journey, the more peaceful your life gets, the more joyful your life gets. And eventually you just want to be like this, right? The steps you take, everything you do moves you closer and closer. And you're just you now. And you are living totally in alignment with your soul. That's how this works. And the road there, really, a lot of it is your intuition. There's a few other steps there too. But every time you listen to your intuition, if you can think of it this way, you're moving away from the programming and the conditioning, what you should do, what you think you're supposed to do, what you think you're supposed to want. And that's really important to know. It's something that came up too. So I talked about when I left my marriage many years ago. I really believed that I was supposed to get married and do all these things. This is the tricky thing about conditioning, is we can actually think we want something. That's when conditioning is really deep. That is when conditioning is really, really strong, is when we actually think we want something. That's where this gets, this journey gets a little bit more expansive. It gets a little broader. So maybe there's some area of your life where you've convinced yourself you want something. That can happen a lot of times. A certain career, a partnership, a friend, a place to live, right? Or you've outgrown it and you don't want to accept that. You don't want to see that. You don't want to actually acknowledge that. The sooner you acknowledge that, the sooner you can move towards your soul and create a life that is truly, truly, truly in alignment with who you really are and who you came here to be and what you came here to experience. All right, beautiful soul. I'm going to leave this here. Again, I mentioned the Power of Alignment Masterclass is linked down below here, as well as my new 1-month accelerator program. I'm super excited about that. This is for somebody who's like ready to go. Like, this is like, I can go for a month and I'm like, can be full in, really, really commit for a month, because we're going to move fast, remove energetic blocks. We're going to get to the core root. We're going to lock the code to your next level of success, do all these things. But this is a fast moving month. So if you're like, I'm ready and I really want to get moving, check out the link below to that as well. I've also got a 3-month program. I've had that for a while there, but the details are also for that below. All right, beautiful soul, take care, and I will talk to you soon.